The bank was unusually quiet for a Monday morning. Not silent, just controlled. Soft footsteps on marble floors, muted conversations behind glass offices, the faint hum of the air conditioner. Money moved here every second, millions of dollars, yet everything felt calm, almost delicate. Behind the front counter, the branch manager adjusted her blazer and scanned the lobby like a hawk. She prided herself on one thing. Nothing suspicious ever slipped past her. That's when the doors opened. A tall man walked in alone. No suit, no watch, no assistant, just worn boots, a plain black jacket, and an old backpack slung over one shoulder. He looked more like someone who fixed motorcycles than someone who carried serious money. A few customers glanced at him, then quickly looked away. The manager noticed too, and immediately judged. He stepped up to her counter politely. "Good morning," he said softly. "I'd like to deposit this, please." He slid a folded check across the desk. She barely looked at him before picking it up. Then she saw the number. Her eyebrows pulled together. She looked again. Her expression changed from bored to annoyed, then almost offended. "Sir," she said flatly, "this isn't funny." He blinked. "I'm sorry. This amount is $20 million. A couple nearby customers turned their heads. She let out a short laugh. "If you're trying to run some kind of scam, this isn't the place." "I'm not," he said calmly, but she was already shaking her head. Without another word, she tore the check straight down the middle. Rip. The sound cut through the entire lobby. Conversation stopped. Everyone stared. She dropped the pieces into the trash. "You people think we're stupid," she muttered. The man didn't argue. Didn't raise his voice. Didn't even look upset. He just stared at the torn paper for a second, then nodded slowly. "All right," he said. Too calm. Way too calm. 5 minutes later, the front doors opened again, and the regional director rushed in, looking panicked. He spotted the man instantly, stood up straighter, then said something that made the manager's blood run cold. "Mr. Reeves, sir, I'm so sorry to keep you waiting." The room didn't move for a full 3 seconds. Not a single chair scraped, not a single keyboard clicked. "Mr. Reeves, sir," the words still hung in the air like something fragile. The manager blinked. She looked from the regional director back to the man standing quietly at her counter, then back again. "Sir," her brain refused to connect the two images, because nothing about him looked important. No designer suit, no luxury watch, no polished shoes. Just that same plain jacket and dusty boots. The kind of clothes most high-value clients would never be caught wearing inside a place like this. This branch wasn't an ordinary bank. It was one of the most exclusive private banking locations in the city. The kind of place where CEOs booked private rooms, investors moved millions over coffee, celebrities entered through side doors, and staff memorized net worth before names. Everything here screamed quiet wealth. Crystal lighting, soft jazz playing overhead, fresh orchids near the entrance. Even the air smelled expensive, and the employees. Perfect posture, perfect smiles, perfect judgment. They could spot money the second someone walked in, or at least, they thought they could. 10 minutes earlier, the same staff had been whispering behind the counter. Probably here to cash a paycheck. Lost, maybe. Security should keep an eye on him. The manager had noticed too, but not with curiosity, with irritation. She believed her job wasn't just approving transactions. It was protecting the bank's image. And people like him didn't fit that image. Even now, her jaw tightened slightly. She forced a polite smile at the director. "There must be some mistake," she said quickly. "This gentleman presented a fraudulent check. I handled it." The man didn't correct her, didn't defend himself. He simply stood there with his hands loosely folded, observing everything. Calm, too calm, like someone watching a movie he'd already seen before. Around them, the bank slowly came back to life, but not normally. Customers pretended to check their phones while secretly staring. Tellers typed but kept glancing up. The security guard near the door shifted awkwardly. Something felt off, like the air pressure had changed. The regional director walked closer, his voice suddenly much more careful. Respectful. Nervous even. "Mom," he said quietly. "Do you know who this is?" She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Because for the first time that day, she realized something uncomfortable. She had never actually asked. Meanwhile, the man's eyes moved slowly across the bank lobby, taking everything in. The marble floors, the expensive artwork, the polished counters. All of it built to handle enormous money. Yet somehow, none of them had recognized the person standing right in front of them. He wasn't angry. He wasn't embarrassed. If anything, he looked almost patient, like he was waiting for the room to catch up. And that calmness, it made everyone else uneasy. Because people who lose $20 million don't act like this. Unless they know something nobody else does. 10 minutes earlier, before the director rushed in, before the whispers, before anyone said, Sir. The moment had looked very different. The bank had been running like clockwork. Appointments, deposits, quiet conversations, and then he stepped up to the counter. "Good morning," he said gently. Not rushed, not demanding, just polite. The manager didn't return the warmth. She gave him the same tight smile she used for people she didn't consider worth her time. "Yes. I need to deposit a check." He slid it toward her carefully like it mattered. Like it wasn't just paper. Her manicured fingers picked it up lazily. She expected something small. A few hundred, maybe a few thousand. But when she read the number, she froze. The 20,000. Her eyes narrowed. Then she looked up at him again, this time slower, measuring, judging. There was no way, she thought. Not this guy. Not dressed like that. Not carrying an old backpack. She flipped the check over, inspected the signature, the issuing account. Everything looked legitimate, which somehow annoyed her more. "Where did you get this?" she asked sharply. He blinked. "It's issued to me." "That's not what I asked." The tone had changed. Now people nearby were listening. "I just need to deposit it," he said calmly. "Today, if possible." She leaned back in her chair. "You expect me to believe this is real?" "It is. For $20 million. "Yes, ma'am." A few customers exchanged looks. One man quietly smirked. Someone whispered, "No chance." The manager felt eyes on her. And suddenly this wasn't about the check anymore. It was about authority, about not looking foolish in front of her staff. Her voice got colder. "Sir, we deal with serious clients here. If this is some kind of prank, it's not a prank." Still calm. Still respectful. That calmness irritated her most of all. No nervousness, no stuttering, no desperation. Almost like he wasn't trying to prove anything. She tapped the desk. "Do you have proof of funds? Corporate verification? A relationship manager?" "No," he said simply. "Then I can't process this. It's a certified bank draft. That can be forged." "It isn't." Now the security guard was watching. The room felt tighter. He didn't argue. Didn't raise his voice. Just stood there quietly while she treated him like a suspect. Then he said something that almost went unnoticed. Soft. Casual. "It's for a hospital transfer." She paused. "What? They're funds. They're time sensitive." "For what hospital?" "A children's wing. They're waiting on it." There was no performance in his voice. No attempt to gain sympathy. Just a statement, simple. Honest. And for half a second, she almost believed him. But pride stepped in. Because if she admitted he might be telling the truth, then she'd have to admit she misjudged him. And she never misjudged people. Her lips tightened. This conversation is over. And before anyone processed what she was doing, she grabbed the check, ripped it straight down the center. The tearing sound sliced through the lobby. "Rip," gasps. Someone muttered, "Oh my God." She dropped the pieces into the trash can like it was nothing. "Bring real documentation next time," she said. Humiliation, public, final. Everyone was staring at him now, waiting. Some people expected yelling. Others expected anger. Anyone would have exploded. $20 million destroyed in seconds. But he didn't move, didn't even look embarrassed. He stared at the trash for a moment, then slowly exhaled, like he'd seen worse. "All right," he said quietly. That was it. No fight, no scene, just acceptance. Which somehow made it worse. Because now the entire bank felt uncomfortable. Like maybe, just maybe, they had made a very big mistake, and none of them knew it yet. Most people would have snapped. $20 million didn't just get torn up every day. People yelled over overdraft fees. They threatened lawsuits over late charges. But this was life-changing money, and the entire lobby had just watched it get shredded like junk mail. So everyone waited, waiting for the explosion, for the shouting, for the, "Do you know who I am?" It never came. Instead, he bent down slightly, picked one small piece of the torn check from the floor, looked at it, folded it once, then slipped it calmly into his jacket pocket, like it was a receipt he might need later. The manager frowned. That wasn't normal behavior. "Sir," she said stiffly. "If you're finished here, you're holding up the line." Her tone had that edge again. The one meant to shrink people. He nodded politely. Of course. But he didn't leave. He simply stepped aside, hands loosely clasped in front of him, and waited, not awkwardly, not nervously, just still, like someone standing at a bus stop, like time didn't matter to him. The security guard watched him carefully. Usually, after confrontations like this, people muttered under their breath, or stormed out, or argued on the phone. This man did none of that. He just observed. His eyes moved quietly around the room, not suspicious, not angry, just aware, taking in everything: the exits, the cameras, the employees, even the nameplates on the desks, the kind of quiet awareness that didn't fit an average customer, the kind you saw in people who were used to pressure, used to chaos, used to staying calm when everyone else wasn't. One of the tellers leaned toward another and whispered, "Why is he still here?" I don't know, but it's weird. Should we call someone? For what? He's not doing anything. Exactly. He wasn't doing anything. And somehow that made everyone more uncomfortable. The manager tried to ignore him. But every time she looked up, he was still there. Relaxed, patient like he knew something she didn't. Finally, he stepped back to the counter. May I borrow a phone for a moment? He asked gently. She blinked. For what? I just need to make a quick call. There's a public phone outside. That's fine. Still polite. Still steady. No frustration. No ego. It irritated her more than shouting ever could have. People who were wrong were supposed to act desperate. He wasn't. He acted certain, as if the outcome had already been decided. As if this whole situation was just a minor delay. While she hesitated, he glanced at a framed photo behind her desk, an old picture of the branch opening ceremony from years ago. He studied it for a second. Is Mr. Hargrove still running this location? He asked casually. She frowned. He retired 5 years ago. Why? He nodded. Good man. Helped a lot of small businesses when no one else would. Her stomach tightened slightly. How would you know that? He didn't answer. Just gave a small, distant smile, like he was remembering something personal. Something she wasn't part of. For the first time, she felt like she was the one out of place. Around them, customers kept sneaking glances. Whispers grew louder. Even the air felt heavier. Because people who lose everything don't look this calm. People who get humiliated don't stand this tall. And people who are lying don't look this comfortable. It slowly dawned on everyone watching. Maybe he wasn't the one who should be nervous. Maybe it was them. The waiting stretched longer than it should have. 5 minutes, then 6, then 7. In a place where transactions usually took seconds, time suddenly felt thick and heavy. No one focused on their work anymore. Keyboards slowed, conversations faded. Even the soft jazz overhead felt too loud. Because every few seconds, someone glanced at him. Still standing near the counter, still calm, still patient like a man waiting for a late train. The security guard finally stepped closer. Not aggressive, just cautious. Sir, are you waiting for someone? He asked quietly.
The man nodded. Yes.
That person coming soon. A small smile. They usually are? Usually. The guard didn't know why, but that word gave him chills. Behind the counter, the manager tried to regain control of the room. All right, everyone, she said sharply, clapping her hands once. Let's stay focused, please. Back to work. But her voice lacked its earlier confidence, because deep down, something wasn't right. Then, the front door swung open, hard, fast. Not the slow, polite entrance of a customer. This was urgent. A tall man in a charcoal suit hurried inside, slightly out of breath, scanning the lobby like he'd run here. 2 assistants followed behind him, tablets in hand, nervous. The staff immediately straightened. They recognized him instantly. Regional Director, Mr. Callahan. No one joked when he visited. No one relaxed. Even the manager stiffened. She rushed forward with a professional smile. Sir, we weren't expecting. He didn't look at her. Didn't even slow down. His eyes locked onto one person only, the man in the plain jacket. And then something strange happened. Callahan's posture changed. His shoulders lowered. His expression softened, respectful, almost apologetic. He walked straight past the manager like she wasn't there. Stopped in front of the quiet man and extended both hands. Mr. Reeves, he said, breathless. I'm so sorry. Traffic was insane. I came as fast as I could. The entire bank froze. Sir, not Mr. Not customer. Sir, like he was talking to someone important, someone you didn't keep waiting. The manager felt her stomach drop. Her smile disappeared. Sir, she repeated under her breath. The man Reeves simply shook Callahan's hand. It's all right, he said calmly. No rush. No rush. The director looked around. Then noticed the tension. The staring employees, the silent customers, and finally, the trash bin behind the counter, with torn pieces of paper inside. His face changed instantly. Concerned. What happened? He asked. The manager stepped forward quickly. Professional mask back on. We had a small situation, sir. This gentleman attempted to deposit a suspicious check. I handled it according to policy. She expected praise. Instead, Callahan stared at her like she'd just confessed to something terrible. You handled it? He asked slowly. Yes, I prevented potential fraud. He turned back to Reeves. Sir, was that the hospital transfer? Reeves nodded once. Yes. The director closed his eyes briefly. Like a headache had just arrived. Then he looked at her again. You tore it up. Her throat tightened. I believed it wasn't legitimate. For the first time since she'd worked there, she felt small. Very small. Callahan's voice dropped cold. Careful. Do you have any idea who you're speaking about? Silence. He gestured toward Reeves. This man has funded half the community programs this branch takes credit for. The room shifted. Staff exchanged looks. Wait, what? Callahan continued. He covered salaries during the recession, paid off small business loans we couldn't, donated millions without putting his name on anything. Every word felt heavier. He's not just a client. A pause. He's one of the reasons this branch still exists. The manager's hand started trembling. Behind her, the trash can suddenly looked very, very important. And very, very dangerous. Because inside it was $20 million. That didn't belong to just anyone. It belonged to him. Nobody spoke. Not the tellers. Not the customers. Not even the manager. Because the truth had just landed in the middle of the room like a dropped glass. And everyone felt it shatter. The regional director turned to her slowly. You tore up his check. He repeated. She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. I was following protocol. But the words sounded weak now. Paper thin. Protocol didn't explain the smirk, didn't explain the tone, didn't explain the humiliation. Callahan exhaled sharply through his nose. Do you understand what that check represented? She said nothing. It wasn't a deposit, he said. It was a scheduled transfer for St. Mary's Children's Hospital. Construction payment, due today. A few employees gasped quietly. Hospital, children's. Suddenly the number felt different. This wasn't wealth. This wasn't luxury money. This wasn't some billionaire moving funds around. This was something people were waiting on. Something important. Something human. The director turned back to Reeves, almost apologetic. Sir, we can reissue everything immediately. I'll personally handle the wire. Reeves nodded lightly. Thank you. I'd appreciate that. That was it. No anger. No lecture. Just calm gratitude, which somehow made it worse. The manager finally stepped forward. Her confidence from earlier was completely gone. I'm very sorry, Mr. Reeves, she said quietly. I didn't realize. He looked at her. Not cold, not harsh, just steady. You didn't ask, he said gently. 4 simple words, but they landed heavier than any insult. You didn't ask. Not who he was, not why he was there, not what the money was for. She had decided everything in the first 3 seconds, based on clothes, on appearance, on assumptions. I misjudged you, she admitted. He gave a small shrug. It happens. Callahan stepped closer. Sir, if you'd like, we can file a formal complaint, or escalate this to head office. Completely your call. The entire staff stiffened. This was it. This was the moment. Revenge, termination, consequences. Everyone expected it. The manager almost braced herself. But Reeves surprised them all. No, he said calmly. Both of them blinked. No. He shook his head. Mistakes don't need punishment, they need correction. The room went quiet again. He glanced around the bank, at the employees, at the customers, at the security guard near the door who had been watching everything nervously since the beginning. Then he said something unexpected. Actually, I'd like to add something to the transfer. Callahan straightened. Of course, sir. Anything. Split an additional $2 million. The manager's eyes widened. Half to the hospital. He pointed subtly toward the guard, and half for employee family assistance, medical emergencies, scholarships, situations people don't talk about. The guard looked stunned. Sir, you don't have to. I know, Reeves said softly. That's why it matters. The words hung in the air. Simple. Honest. Real. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He wasn't performing generosity. It felt natural. Like this was just who he was when nobody was looking. Callahan nodded quickly, already typing notes. Done. I'll set it up immediately. The power dynamic had completely flipped now. An hour ago, the manager controlled the room now. She felt like the smallest person in it, because the man she had treated like a fraud had just quietly helped everyone in the building, even her. And the worst part, he never once tried to make her feel bad, which somehow made her feel worse. He adjusted his jacket. Can we process the new draft? Right away, sir, Callahan said. Staff rushed into action, faster than they had all day. Chairs scraping, keyboards flying, urgency everywhere. Not because they feared him, but because they respected him. And respect hit different. Before stepping away, Reeves looked back at the manager one last time. His voice calm, gentle. Next time, treat the first customer like they're the most important one. A pause. Sometimes they are. She nodded silently. Lesson learned. The hard way. The rush slowly faded. Keyboard stopped clacking. Phone stopped ringing. The urgent energy that had filled the bank minutes ago settled into something quieter, heavier. Like everyone needed a second to process what had just happened. The new draft was printed. Signed. Verified twice. No one dared make a mistake this time. Callahan personally handed it to Reeves with both hands. Transfer confirmed, sir. The hospital will receive it within the hour. Reeves nodded. Thank you. Simple. No celebration. No dramatic speech. Just another task completed. Like it was never about the money in the first place. Around the lobby, employees avoided eye contact at first. Then one by one, something changed. The young teller who had whispered earlier, She gave him a small, respectful nod. The older accountant near the back. "Have a good day, sir." Even customers who didn't know the full story stepped aside to let him pass. Not because they were told to, because they wanted to. Respect. Quiet. Natural earned. Near the door, the security guard hurried over. He looked nervous, like he wasn't sure if he should speak. "Mr. Reeves, sir." Reeves, stop. "My daughter," the guard said, voice shaking slightly. "She's starting college next year. I heard what you said about the scholarship fund. I just thank you." For the first time all day, Reeves' expression softened completely. No calm mask, just warmth. "I hope she studies something she loves," he said. The guard smiled wider than he had all morning. "I'll tell her you said that." They shook hands, not employee and client. Just two people. Equal. Behind them, the manager watched quietly. She looked different now. Less sharp, less proud. Like something had been rearranged inside her. When Reeves walked past, she spoke softly. "Sir, thank you for giving us a second chance." He paused. Then gave her a small smile. Everyone deserves one. No bitterness, no sarcasm. Just truth. And somehow, that hurt more than any punishment ever could. Because kindness forces you to reflect. Forces you to grow. He pushed the glass doors open and stepped outside. Sunlight spilled in, the same way it had when he arrived. Same jacket, same boots, same old backpack. Nothing about him looked rich. Nothing screamed power. If someone passed him on the sidewalk, they'd never guess he'd just moved $2 million and changed half a dozen lives before lunch. And maybe that was the point. Because real strength doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need attention. It doesn't tear others down to prove something. It just shows up, does what's right, and leaves quietly. Inside the bank, things felt different now. The next customer who walked in wore paint-stained jeans. Normally, the staff might have judged, might have rushed him, might have assumed. Not today. Today, the teller smiled first. "Good afternoon, sir. How can I help you?" Because they had learned something money couldn't teach. Respect shouldn't depend on appearance. And you never know who someone really is until you treat them like they matter.